Welcome to Voice of India in the show The Inspiring Stories. Let's meet our new guest today, Miss Rana Bokhari. Welcome to the show, Miss Rana Bokhari.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Rana Bokhari is a lawyer by profession and is the youngest Asian politician who has proved herself in spite of lots of challenges on her way. Rana has been the leader of opposition party for 4 consecutive years. So Rana, I'm excited to know how did the journey started and was it something in your blood or any opportunity hit your way?
Yeah, I think all this politics is always in our blood. I think that most of us who have grown up in politically active families, but not politically publicly, but politically within your home or understanding different justice issues. I think definitely it's in our blood. I was leader for about 4 years for the Manitoba Liberals, and then I've been lawyer since then.
Okay, that's great. So what was the motivation behind this, journey to the politics?
That's a good question. It's long and it's complicated, but and I would like to say, oh, it was, this great desire to be in politics, but that's really not the case. I think sometimes women shy away from wanting to just take an opportunity, like seeing an opportunity and taking it. And I think that that's a good thing. So I saw the opportunity to run for the position, to join the position. So I took it. I took it, I fought for it, and I won.
So would you give this credit to someone else, or is there any role model in your life, or
That's
any
a good
inspiration behind?
Yeah, definitely my dad. My dad's always been, he passed away last year, and today would be his birthday.
Oh, sorry for that.
Yeah, so my dad's always been the biggest inspiration, and I think that a lot of us, a lot of young women who have very strong fathers who are always promoting you and taking all the fear out of your journey,
Yeah.
right? Because most of us would be afraid, right? We'd be afraid of failing or be afraid of, not doing the best that you could do or succeeding. There's all these fears that come into play. But, my dad's always been my mentor. He's always been my guider. He's always been in life and after life, really the sole motivator in everything I do. So
was
100% my dad.
was your father also into politics?
No, my parents were farmers.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's altogether different.
Totally
turn
different story.
in a life.
Yeah,
right?
totally different story. Not, but and again, to be in politics doesn't always mean you have to carry a role in politics, right? So you can be politically active in various forms, right? And even just having the knowledge of what is happening in your city or in your province or in your country in terms of policies, in terms of legislation or what governments are doing, I would consider that being politically active. So in that sense, I think all of our family's been very politically active. We understand what is just, we understand what is not fair, we understand what is, the wrong type of movement for all of us forward. Right. So in that sense, absolutely. But in terms of holding an actual political position, nobody in my family.
So being from a Muslim family, sorry to ask you a personal
No,
question.
I'm proudly Shia Muslim.
Yeah. So I'm willing to know, how did you overcome that cultural limitation what other females face?
Yeah, I think and it's a great question, and I don't feel like it's a personal question. I think a lot of people should learn from it. I think I didn't have to overcome that because I was trained within my family that there were no limitations, that we were to be the best people, the best human beings that you could be. But we weren't going to be boxed into a scenario, because whether you are Sikh or Hindu or Muslim, we all have cultural challenges from the homeland. We bring forward things, and there's a lot of beauty. So I think people always want to talk about the challenges, but I think the reality is that it's more positive than it is negative. there's a lot more power in what we do bring forward than there is hurdles from what we can't do. So yeah, I just didn't have to overcome it. I feel like perhaps within a community, within the community, there may have been hurdles. I don't think it was always accepted within our own community, but at the same time, people were supportive, and I think that they understood that I was the first. I was the first. I was Muslim. I was young. I was in this power position, or perceived power position. So I think that, and I hope that it actually gave more hope to people than created barriers or people to be afraid of it, right? So
yeah, that's good to be an inspiration for other people. Yeah, that's really great. So, as we discussed, you have been practicing for First Nations, right? So, like, this is a different topic. I haven't heard a lot of lawyers being, interested in that. So, what's the reason of why did you selected that?
I don't think that I selected it. I think that it selected me. I think
Okay.
that it fell into my general life values and principles of, there are people in this country, there are people in this world who have gone through very traumatic, very, I don't even know. I mean, it's genocide. What happened to First Nations, Indigenous people in Canada is genocide. I always hesitate when, when we hear from other countries do not understand our own history. Right? So for me, I was very aware of the history. I understand my role in helping better and be an ally and be close and help as much as I can to better the future for all of us. So I know I recognize that. I think I've been asked that a lot of times by various community members and whatnot about why did you choose this area? A lot of Muslim, a lot of brown lawyers are in the corporate world or in the in the very it's a very different world. But no, I think it found me, and it was the best decision that I've ever made. And I think that again, it fulfills my values, right? It makes me help people. It makes me be a strong advocate in law for people who need it. I'm unwavering in my loyalty and my support. I do not accept anything but factual truth about that history, whether it's within our own community or outside of our community. And I hope that more of us become better allies.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. We will definitely come up with I think a different show regarding this is a very vast topic, right?
Yeah.
First Nations, we'll definitely love to discuss that with Rana. So let's talk about your biggest achievement, Rana. When you were the leader of opposition party for 4 years, so I'm very again excited to know that how did you prepare for this?
Yeah, you can't prepare. we can try to prepare, but it's a great question because I think it's timely, right? So I think what's going to happen within the next, I would say at least year and a half, there will be hopefully, possibly a federal election, right? There's elections coming up. So to answer that question, I think I'll frame it in more what we can all do to help. Like how do we all help political parties? How we all help candidates? How do we all prepare people that we trust and believe in to be our representatives as an MP, as an MLA, a city councillor, or in any other form. Me personally, as a leader, I recognize very quickly winning or losing in politics. Other than all of the policies and politics, it is basically a numbers game, especially when you're running for a leadership campaign. And so for me, I was confident in what I was bringing forward. I knew that I had the vision and the values to bring the party into the limelight, which we did for 4 years. We were able to win some seats, which we had not for a long time for the Manitoba Liberals. It was the first time we had won more than one seat in I don't know how long. So there were a lot of achievements, but preparing for that generally, know your policies, know who you're speaking to, get your volunteers together, raise a lot of money, make sure that you're understanding that not everybody understands, politics. People want to know how something you're saying is going to affect their day-to-day life. When they go home and they can't pay a bill or they're struggling in some personal manner, what are you as a leader doing to help them?
Yeah.
Right? Because most of us don't really pay attention to politics, right? We know who our MP is, we know who our MLA is, but the reality of the situation is most of us go home and think, okay, well, how is this going to affect me and my family personally? So for leaders, I think it's really important to be sure that we're not talking politicians to politicians, right? You should be talking politicians to people.
People, yeah. Politicians are for people, so definitely.
Yeah, so do the job.
Do the job, yes. So what was your biggest challenge when you just took over this position?
Oh boy, that's a great question. There's a lot of conversation these days about systemic racism. There's a lot of conversations about institutions, including political institutions, that have racial undertones or the inability to accept different people in positions of leadership or as MLAs or MPs or whatever else. So for me, as a brown, young, Muslim, Shia, female, you can imagine that I did not have a lot of hope, right? Because no matter which way I turned, somebody was against me, right? So it was very, very challenging. I think that, I don't appreciate lip service. I don't really like lip service or just people pretending that, oh, we're so diverse and we're so open and we're so accepting, but then when push comes to shove, you absolutely do not believe that. So for all of us, people of color everywhere, we need to be pushing. We need to be, really, when somebody's telling you that they are diverse or they promote diversity or they promote women, you need to be really asking the serious questions.
Means their actions don't match their words,
Not
you
at
can
all.
say?
Yeah,
right?
not at all. But that's no fault of any political party yet, right? Now they've become aware of it. Okay, so I'm going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so let's just clean slate. We give everyone the benefit of the doubt. We agree that maybe they just didn't know. I don't really buy that, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I think that going forward, I think we all need to be ensuring that our representatives are actually representing our people.
So, like, I can imagine the scenario when you just took over the position and there were like the senior white politicians already there. So how did you manage to bring them on the same page? Because that was, I think, the biggest
It didn't happen.
challenge. Right?
Yeah, no, they never came on board. They never came on board from the day I started to the day I ended. They never came on board when I was there. They never came on board when I was there because they're absolutely unwilling. And most people would sit here after this and they would try to be politically correct in some way. I don't have that intention. I don't really care. I'm very open about the scenario. I think that from the moment I started to the moment I ended, no, they were not supportive. They were absolutely not supportive. They were detrimental to my mental, physical, and emotional life, as well as the position. And that is simply and solely because there are people in this world who believe that they will be your friend, they will support you as long as you are not above them in hierarchy.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think I'm saying anything new. We all know this. We all know this. If you are working for a corporation as a brown man, they're going to support you and they're going to have your back as long as you are underneath them. The minute you become manager and now you're above them, they're not having it. Yeah. And some of that comes from the fact that you are in management. That is one part of it. But we all should be aware of the fact that there are internal dynamics that are always happening. So I did not overcome it. I would openly say that I left because of it. I did not want to jeopardize my own values or who I was or who I was raised to be to appease, a bunch of white guys.
Yeah.
And none of us should, right? We're all very intelligent people. We come from families who've worked very hard to be here, and we have value systems, and we have good hearts, and we are giving people, all of us. So we should not be jeopardizing who we are as people because we are much better. I shouldn't say better. I think we all have different categories of accomplishments, but I think that we are not bad people. We're good human beings. So why should we change?
Yeah, that's great. So what was your vision as a leader at that time?
You know what? I really had this vision of having a party that was filled with young people, visionaries, trailblazers, people who are, working at, just the future, right? Like people who really want,
willing to change,
willing to change,
new
and
challenges, new roles, new
exactly. And if you think about it, the next generation is quite, they have their eyes open, right? So for me, it was a lot of it was to do with that. I really wanted to have a party that was future thinking and progressive and and really willing to understand that we all should be taking care of each other. You know what I mean? Like there's not the cause should be humanity. The cause should not be party lines. The cause should be how do you fix all of us, because when one of us is doing better, we all actually do better. So that was really where my head was at. It changed as time went on though.
So what difference you notice between the old generation and the new generation, which is coming up with a different, mindset?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, you're really hitting them hard. I think there's a much more diversity in schools now. I think there's much more openness to accept different people when some of these kids are growing up into junior high, middle schools, and high schools. I know when I was growing up, we were the only brown people. You're not going to find that in many schools now these days. So even that, just the ability to see people who are different from you is very positive. I also think they're intelligent, and I don't feel like they're going to be, just caught up in the nonsense. I think that they have access to information at the palm of their hands, which is, our generations didn't have that. If somebody came online and said, okay, every Muslim is a terrorist, kids these days will do the research. In our time, it would become
they believe what
the
they
belief.
listen to.
They would believe, right? And I'm not saying that they don't still believe. There's a group of people who still believe it, right? But they're not very open and they're quite ignorant. But I don't believe, and that's where our hope should come from, is that you have these generations coming forward who are really, really going. I know it's cliche to say it, but they really are the future.
So definitely. So we wish you get that position again in the future. So what would be your new vision if you really get
That's a
that?
great question. If I ever went back into politics, I think that a lot of women's issues, I think representation of women in all boards, in all parties is critically important. I don't mean just white women. I'm talking about women of color across the board. I think that mental health should be priorities across the board. I think that there's a lot of people who suffer in silence, and we're finding that during the pandemic. That's going to be a huge one as well. Proper education, and I know people don't really talk about this, but proper accreditation for people who are coming from different countries. We saw during the pandemic that there was a great disparity between people of color, not only suffering from the disease, getting it, but also being exposed to it more times because of their jobs or because of their roles, whether it's in healthcare or something else. So I think that recognizing that different degrees from different countries may actually be quite valuable. And having somebody who's a doctor in Pakistan coming to Canada and not being able to practice for 20 years and then ending up doing something else. That doesn't help Canada.
Yeah.
That doesn't help any of us. These are very intelligent people. Their educational systems are getting better, whether it's Pakistan, India. They're not where they were 20, 50 years ago. I think we need to start recognizing those changes and move our policies in Canada accordingly.
Okay, that's a great vision. Thank you for sharing. And I would also like to have a little bit of glimpse on your, interesting community work you have been involved in.
Yeah, it spreads. It spreads across the board. I've done everything from benefit concerts to just quietly donating hundreds of coats to people, or I just do the best I can. I think that that's a very important part of who we are. Part of our culture, is part of our religion, is part of who we are. Is that ability to give back and really understanding what our jobs are. But for me, I don't discriminate when I'm giving, right? So I don't really pick and choose. I don't say, okay, well, I'm only going to give to this. Just last month, I think I donated, like 100 or something books to, was it 100? Yeah, I think it was about 100 books to the St. Boniface Hospital. That was a really great thing. I donated in my dad's name. And every one of those books had Muslim characters. They had characters who were like brown, they had, like these things where young kids who are in the hospital can have their own representation if they're sick and they're not feeling good, and they can open these books and see themselves in it. So yeah, I really have I just my heart's open always, and whenever anyone needs, I'm committed to just jumping in wherever I can.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for sharing your ideas of your leadership. That was very great, and
Thank you.
Thanks for coming here.
Absolutely,
And
thank you.
stay connected with us. We'll be soon coming with a new guest with some different topics, some interesting ones. So stay connected. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye.